العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers, my sisters in Islam, welcome to Mina. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your acts of ibadah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this in our Mizan al-Hasanat. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala count us from those slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who are chosen to be from those that are forgiven in this beautiful Hajj of 2014, inshallah. Yeah, my name is Tawfique Chowdhury and I'm a medical doctor. I'm from Australia. I'm an emergency specialist, medical doctor from Australia. I studied in Medina Jamiat al-Islam. So I am a graduate from the Kulliyat al-Hadith, Kulliyat al-Sharia in the year 2004. That's where I graduated, and I studied with the ulama in the Prophet's Masjid. Most of them are very well known. They're from the Kibab, and I studied with some of the elder scholars that are there in the Prophet's Masjid, like Abdul Muhsin Abad and his teacher, his son Abdul Razak, Sheikh Abdul Razak Hafidahullah, and also Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar Shanqiti and his Tullab and his students, and many others from the Prophet's Masjid and from the university. But that is who I am, and inshallah, Jazakallah khair. Right, for anyone else who's interested in knowing, and so that we can carry on inshallah our acts of ibadah. Ya Ikhwati, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed that many different types of acts of ibadah on his slave. From the different types of acts of ibadah Allah Azza wa Jal has decreed is a physical act of ibadah, which is salah. From them are monetary acts of ibadah like zakat and zakat al-fitr. From them are also the difficult types of acts of ibadah that includes both monetary as well as physical elements, that is hajj. And one of the most amazing things is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is it okay? Can I carry on? One of the most amazing things is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to come to this barren land of Makkah. Okay, that's fine now. Okay. What did you say? I was Shaitan Rajim or something like that. Okay. One of the most amazing things is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to come to the barren lands of Makkah, in which there is nothing that grows, no animals, no crops. And how amazing is it that Allah Azza wa Jal has chosen these places for His chosen land to bring all His slaves from the most amazing parts of the earth, from kulli fajjin amiq, from every single mountain, from every single hill. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us here in these barren lands. And have you ever thought about why Allah tells us to go to Mina? Why Muzdalifah? What's the significance? Why does Allah want us to go to Arafat? Why Arafat? Why wear these two pieces of clothing? Why that? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us? Why slaughtering a sheep? Why slaughtering a camel? Why tawaf? Why sa'i? Why do we come back to Mina for 3 days? What's the purpose of all of this? So what I wanted to explain to you is the wisdom behind all of this, so that when the wisdom is clear to you, you will have a renewed sense of respect for this act of ibadah called Hajj. And I assure you, there's no one who hears what I'm about to tell you from the spiritual journey of Hajj, except by Allah you will want to come back every single year to perform Hajj. At this point in time, Hajj is difficult upon you. At this point in time, it's only once in a year, costs you 7,000 pounds to perform. It's very difficult. But when you understand the spiritual journey that Hajj contains, you will inshallah ta'ala understand how amazing this act of ibadah really is. So Ikhwati, the scholars of Islam, they mention that the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to adorn these two garments that we have in our ihram, leave aside our beautiful thobes and our shirts and our pants and our suits, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to leave aside our families that are in the most beautiful of places, in our homes that we are comfortable with, around people that we are comfortable with, to come to a land who we don't know anyone, a language that perhaps we don't even speak, a place that we have never ever come to, that we never recognize. And that is precisely because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us all about the moment we will go back to Him, when we will leave every single thing behind. So we will leave back our dresses and we will put on our kafan. We will leave back our families and our friends and everyone that we know, and our only companions in our graves will be our deeds. We will leave behind our beautiful homes, 2-story, 3-story homes with amazingly beautiful and amazing beds and couches, every type of food, and all we will have is a 2-meter by 1-meter grave that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared as our destination, our middle destination before our final one on the Day of Judgment. So ikhwati, this is the thing that should be going through your heads. This is what we should be thinking out at every moment of when we do this journey. That this journey is a journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a journey of our lifetime. Like the day we will go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with nothing left at all. Everything will be left behind. And all we will have is our deeds to accompany us in our grave. In the authentic hadith which is in Bukhari, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that for a believer, his deeds will come in the form of a human being. And it will come in the form of a human being, protecting him and speaking to him about keeping him company and protecting him from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not decreed from him, like snakes or scorpions or shaitans that try to attack him over there. Also in the authentic hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, which is in Daraqutni and others, he said that our salah and our siyam will come like knights that fight. They will come protecting us in our graves, and they will protect us from those things which Allah Azza wa Jalla has not decreed. So ikhwati, as we put these 2 dresses on and we leave our families behind, constantly think about the day and the moment that you will be alone with Allah in the grave. And that is why the scholars of Islam, they say there is no act of ibadah that reminds you of death more than 2 acts of ibadah. More than these 2 acts. What are they? Number 1 is Hajj, because you leave everything behind and you come to a barren land with these 2 pieces of cloth. And the second is i'tikaf. The second is i'tikaf, when you leave everything behind and your pleasures and your wife, and you stay in the masjid alone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is your chance to remember the days that you'll be alone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your grave. Tayyib ikhwati, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the authentic hadith in Bukhari, he said, Al-Hajju Arafah. Verily Hajj is Arafah. What does that mean? It means that if you miss Arafah, you miss Hajj. If you miss Arafah, you miss Hajj. And that's why you'll hear the scholars being very, very shadeed, very strict on the topic of Arafah. You have to be in Arafah at the time that is allotted. You have to be within the boundaries of Arafah. You have to be there. If you don't, you miss Hajj altogether. It's like the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said, "Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah," right? Or he said in authentic hadith, "Ad-du'a mukhul ibadah." Tayyib? What does that mean? It means dua is all of ibadah. All of ibadah is dua. That's why, do you know how many verses there are in the Quran that says do not make dua to anyone other than Allah? More than 500 verses in the Quran. Do not make dua to anyone other than Allah. Why? Because dua is the mukh wal ibadah. It's the heart of ibadah. It's the heart and soul of ibadah. That's why the Jews and Christians and Muslims all make dua to their gods, right? We make to our God and they make to their gods. And that which combines us together is the act of dua. So that's why when dua is lost and you make dua to Abdul Qadir Jilani or you make dua to even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you have lost the whole essence of ibadah to Allah Azza wa Jalla. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the most important thing in Arafah is dua itself. So why am I saying this? It's for you to understand how important Arafat is. That Arafat is the most important part and the pillar of Hajj. The scholars of Islam said Hajj has 4 pillars. Number 1 is Ihram. Number 2 is Arafah. Number 3 is Tawaf. Number 4 is Sa'i. Number 1 is Ihram, which you already have performed, alhamdulillah. The second is Arafah, which is coming tomorrow. Why is Arafah so important? In order to understand Arafat and Arafah, you have to understand a little bit about geography. Now, we all know there's something called the Haram, right everyone? We know there's something called the Haram. And it has invisible boundaries, yes? So there is the Haram of Makkah, there is the Haram of Medina, and then there is the Haram of Al-Aqsa. So the scholars of Islam said Al-Haram is Haram because certain things are haram in it. What are the things that are haram in Makkah? So for example, begging is haram. For example, finding a stolen item or a lost item, picking it up, luqata. To pick up a luqata, which is a lost item, is haram. To cage up an animal is haram. To graze an animal inside Makkah is haram. To cut a tree is haram. To bring your sword into Makkah and sheath it is haram. Right? All of these things are haram. And that is why it's called haram. Does that make sense? In the same way, certain things are very, very haram in the haram itself, such as innovations, bid'ah, or for example, sins which are done openly, open fusuq, are very, very haram. So ikhwati, imagine the haram is surrounded by a massive wall, invisible wall. Imagine that this wall is so huge that it transcends the earth, goes up to the heavens. And imagine that this haram is surrounded, all the boundary of the haram is surrounded by this. So what are the things inside the haram of Makkah? Well, the masjid is inside the haram. Aziziyah, where we were today, is inside the haram. Mina is inside the haram. Okay? And so is Muzdalifah inside the haram. But Arafat is not inside the haram. Arafat is considered from the hill, from the halal. Meaning in Arafat you can actually go hunting. Meaning in Arafat you can actually cage an animal. Meaning in Arafat, if you find lost item, you can actually pick it up and give it to the lost and found. Right? In Arafat, it's actually considered halal. Now, imagine the scholars mention that the Prophet ﷺ went to Arafat. Does anyone remember what he did? In the authentic hadith of Jabir, which is in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ went to Arafat. And then he gave a khutbah, right guys? He prayed 2 rak'ah, dhuhr, 2 asr. He gave a khutbah, correct or not? Then he sat on his camel and he made dua all the way until the sunset, correct? You know this, right? Very basic stuff you've done in your studies. Why did the Prophet do this? Why? The question that I have for you today is why? And the answer is, imagine, brothers and sisters in Islam, that you are like a beggar outside the palace of the king. And you have left your homeland and you have come to the palace of a king. You're outside the big gates of the palace. What do you do? What do? You beg the great king to open his doors of mercy. You say, oh great king, forgive us. Oh great king, we have sinned. We are not worthy of your mercy, but oh Allah, out of your sheer mercy, forgive us and have mercy on us. And so that's exactly what you do in Arafat. So you stay in Arafat and you're begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why in the authentic hadith, it is reported that the Prophet ﷺ made dua and he did not drop his hands. Even when the reins of the camel fell from his hands, he did not drop both his hands. He dropped one hand to go and get it, whilst the other hand was up making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that Arafat, ikhwati, is like a situation where we are beggars outside the huge gates of the haram, which are like the dominion and the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what we do is we beg Allah from the mid-noon until sunset, oh great king, open the doors of your mercy to us. And that's the meaning of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that on the day of Arafat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala boasts to his angels about these people. And he says, who are these people? What do they want? He knows, of course, who we are and what we want. He is more aware of it. So the angels say, oh Allah, they have come from every land. They are here seeking your mercy and your forgiveness. So it's like the great king, the one who is inside his castle, who says, you know what? If you are begging my mercy, beg my mercy before I give it to you. So Allah boasts of us to his angels, and then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is satisfied that we have made enough dua, Allah grants his mercy. O angels, I make you my witness, I've forgiven them all. This is why Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he says in his fatwa, it may be that because of the fervent dua of the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the plains of Arafat, that not only the people who are in Arafat, but the people in this earth are also covered by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those people who are the beggars that beg in front of the gates of of that great mighty king, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why Allah, one of his names is Al-Malik, the king. Also one of his attributes is Malik al-Muluk, the king of kings. And that's why on the day of judgment, before the day of judgment, upon the second blowing of the horn, when every single thing on this dunya is destroyed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take every single thing in his right hand, and he will say, where are the kings today? I am the king in a day in which there is no other kings. Tayyib Ikhwani, this is the attribute of kingship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are the beggars begging Allah Azza wa Jalla for his mercy. So out of his mercy at sunset, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants his mercy. So what's the first thing he tells the beggars to do? You have been begging the whole day, you have been tired in the sun, now come into my kingdom and sleep. Don't come and visit me yet. Come and sleep in my kingdom. So Allah allows us to come in. That's why no prayer yet, no Maghrib, no Isha in Arafat. We enter into Muzdalifah, which is actually inside the Haram, right? So the great doors are open and we enter into his kingdom, and we come and we sleep on the plains of Muzdalifah. And we pray inside Muzdalifah. Out of Allah's mercy, he gave us the Salah in Muzdalifah, which is 100,000 times better than the prayer in Arafat. Why is that the case? Because Arafat is from the hill, whereas Muzdalifah is from the Haram. Does that make sense? So you come to Muzdalifah, and Muzdalifah comes from the word Izdalafa. Izdalafa in the Arabic language means to come close. Izdalafa meaning they came close. Okay? So Muzdalifah means that we have come close to Allah now with our begging and our asking for forgiveness. So what do? The Prophet ﷺ, he would pray his Maghrib, he would pray his Isha, he would go to sleep. Some scholars allow tahajjud that night. Other scholars said the sunnah is to just go to sleep. Then you wake up in the morning, and again, what do you do? As soon as you pray your Fajr, all you do is you're busying yourself by making dhikr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to forgive, to continue to be in the good favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you do that until the sun is about to rise up, because the mushrikeen would stay until the sun had risen up. So the Muslimin are different from the mushrikeen. We leave before the sun rises up. And what is the first thing we do? Now, did anyone notice that in the Shahada, which we say, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, right? First we negate, then we affirm, right? First we negate that there is no God. Then we say, illallah, except one true God, right? No God worthy of worship, except one true God worthy of worship, which is Allah. So therefore, true love, when you want to say to your wife, I love you, that's okay. But that doesn't mean that you can't say to your other wife, I love you, or your other wife, I love you, or to your mom, I love you, or to someone else, I love you, right? But if you say, I don't love anyone but you, Ya Salam. Hello, Hada. Correct or not? So in the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to negate and affirm. You cannot simply affirm. You have to negate at the same time. This is why Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to say, woe to the people who don't know shirk, because they'll fall into it. You have to learn about shirk. You have to then negate it. Then and only then will you affirm your pure tawheed to Allah Azza wa Jalla. So what's the first thing you do on the day of Eid, on the 10th day? First thing you do is you stone. Why do you stone? Because you're negating the enemy of Allah Azza wa Jalla, which is the shaitan. Because you want to go visit the great king today. And to visit the great king, the first thing you want to do is that the great king, have you seen in certain stories, or perhaps you might have seen in some TV shows, perhaps, that in the kingdom of the great king, one of the things the great king has is that he puts up the skulls of his enemies. Have you seen that? Okay? So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept a stone, which is a reminder of his enemy, shaitan, the one who deceives all of mankind to worship other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. So what do? First we make takfir of the shaitan, meaning that we disbelieve in the shaitan. So our throwing the stones is not the shaitan itself, it's a symbolic view that we are disbelieving in the shaitan. So the scholars of Islam mentioned that when we are throwing the stones, imagine You're throwing back your desires. You're throwing back your kufr. You're throwing back your innovations. You're throwing back all your haram to the shaitan. Take it back. We don't want it. This is your deen, not mine. As for my deen, it's deen al-Hanif. It's the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. That's the first thing you do. What's the second thing the Prophet did? After he stole, what did he do, guys? Does anyone remember? He slaughtered, right? One of the things the people say, the ulama mentioned, that when people used to go visit the great king, like, for example, when the brothers of Yusuf went to visit Yusuf alayhi salam, what did they do? They took a gift, hoping that they will get an even bigger gift. Correct or not? And that's what we do as well. That's why we slaughter. The next thing we do is we slaughter. What are we doing? We are offering to Allah a gift, hoping for a greater gift in return, which is, Ya Rab, give us Jannah and forgiveness and your mercy. Does that make sense? And that is what we do. When you slaughter, Ikhwani, what does it symbolize? What is the slaughter symbolizing? It's symbolizing the fact that our father, Ibrahim ﷺ, nearly slaughtered his son. Correct or not? At the same place, at the same time, Ibrahim ﷺ nearly slaughtered Ismail ﷺ. And you know what the Quran mentions? The Quran mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Safat, Allah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Ibrahim to go and slaughter. So Ibrahim told his son ﷺ, يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبتي افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Right? You will inshallah find me from the patient ones, O my father. Because after his father told him that I saw in my dream that I'm going to slaughter him. So what happened? In the morning of the day of slaughter, they prepared him as if he was going to get married that day. So they prepared him. Some of the scholars said he was 10 years old. Some said 14. Some said 7. Wallahu ta'ala alim about his age. So Ismail was taken and he was beautified and he was taken to this place. And when he was about to be slaughtered, his father looked at his face. Listen to this. His father looked at his face and he felt something in his heart. So what did he say? فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. He told Ismail, say, oh my son, turn over. So he made Ismail turn over on his face. Normally he was going to slaughter him like this from the front, right? But he thought that the father's emotion might take over at the last minute and he might disobey Allah. And so what did he do? He told his son, oh my son, turn over. So he actually sat down. His son was on his face. At that point, whilst he was about to slaughter his son, وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَيَّا إِبْرَاهِيمُ قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. And we called out, oh Ibrahim, now you have fulfilled the dream, the true revelation, the dream that came to you. Ikhwati, this is the sunnah of Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah tests us to the last minute. Have you noticed? Why did Allah have to wait till Fir'aun was 100 meters away before he parted the sea? If he parted the sea at that point, he could have parted the sea whilst Fir'aun was in his castle. Couldn't he? Yes, but Allah does that to his slave. You know why? Because He wants to see who do you love more. Who do we love more, ya ikhwani? Our families or Allah? Our money or Allah? It must be no one but Allah. So when you are slaughtering and sacrificing, you must remember, ikhwati, that what you are sacrificing is every other love other than Allah's love. You are not going to love anything else more than the love of Allah Azza wa Jalla. The love of your wife, and for the wife's love for the husband. None of this is important with the love of Allah. And that's why, sisters in Islam, if you want to wear the hijab and your husband says, no, you know what, don't wear the hijab. If you now say, oh my husband, I love you so much, okay, I won't wear the hijab. Here you prefer the love of your husband over the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if the brothers, for example, you want to keep a beard, I'm just giving simple examples, okay? Simple examples. You want to keep the beard, but your job says, you know what, no, you can't have a beard. You can't. Or your name is Muhammad, you can't call yourself Muhammad. Call yourself Mo. You're Mo. Muhammad, no. If you have Muhammad, no one's going to come and ask you questions because Islamophobia. Call yourself Mo from now on. If you do that, you have preferred the love of a human being over the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never ever prefer the love of anything else other than the love of Allah. This is why it is so contradictory, ikhwati, so contradictory that a person comes to Hajj and we tell him, Akhi, don't wear a gold watch. Akhi, keep a beard. Sister, wear a hijab. Akhi, stop smoking. And the people say, you know what, no, another time. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you even slaughtering? What's the meaning of you giving a slaughter? There's no meaning in this for you. Your meaning should be, I prefer the love of Allah over all other loves, including my love for cigarettes, including my love for anything else. Does that make sense? And that's the way it should be, ikhwati. Prefer the love of Allah over all else. That's why you're slaughtering. Otherwise, how can you expect Allah to give you a greater gift when your gift to Allah is also deficient? Because Allah is not going to eat the meat or benefit from the fur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّمَا يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ لَن يَنَالُ اللَّهَ اللُّحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. Allah is not going to eat its meat or its blood. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, however, He takes the taqwa from you. And that's why if you have no taqwa behind it, if you're slaughtering every other love other than the love of Allah, there's no use in your slaughtering, ya akhi kareem. You might as well just, do something else with that money. It's more beneficial to you perhaps. But if you do truly want to slaughter, then have that meaning in your heart, I'm slaughtering everything. Every other love other than the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the love for my children. Even the love for my children. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-malu wal-banuna zinatul hayati dunya. Al-mal, money. Why was it mentioned before banun, children? Because that's what we do today as fathers. We even say to our children, I'm sorry son, I can't take you to your soccer game. I can't sit with you for an hour for Quran. I'm going to go and earn money. Who's going to pay for your school? Who's going to pay for your rent? So we prefer money over our children sometimes. And that's why, ikhwati, we should not be of those people who behave in this manner. Sacrifice every love other than the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's the third thing Allah's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did? What's the third thing he did? He did halq, right? Why do you shave your head? Because the Arabs used to love their hair, and their duhun, and their coloring of the hair, and their perfuming of their hair was a sign of their pride. And today as well, our hair is a sign of our pride. Isn't that right, guys? It's a sign of pride. In fact, those brothers and sisters who can't have hair, those brothers who don't have hair, they're like, oh, what's going on to me? We're like, Akhi, do you need some testosterone tablets? Do you, we look at the brothers feel like that, right? Because hair is a sign of pride. It's a sign of pride. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to first do takfir of Allah's enemy. You're trying to offer Allah a gift. Then you're trying to humble yourself before you go to Allah Azza wa Jal. So you shave your hair. And in many cultures, like in the Chinese culture, Japanese culture, to shave the head is a sign of humility. Correct? And that's why slaves used to shave their head in front of their king. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us to shave our heads as well before we go and visit the house of the great king. Then what do? What did the Prophet ﷺ do? He came out of his ihram. He put his perfume on. He put his clothes on, proper clothes, not his ihram. Why? Because now you're going to visit the king. You can't go to visit the king in dirty clothes. Have you gone to visit the king in dirty clothes? If the Queen of England is going to come, you're not going to go visit dirty clothes, right, guys? I mean, imagine that's for a worldly king. Imagine now the king of the heavens and the earth. And that's why you wear your ihram. That's why you get out of your ihram and you wear your thobe and you have a shower and you put perfume on and you say, and you go and do tawaf. And that's what Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَلِيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ. And let them do tawaf around the chosen house, or the house which all the hearts get attracted to, which is the Bayt al-Atiq, which is the Kaaba, which is actually visiting Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ. And upon mankind is for Allah a visit to His house, whoever is able to do so. So it culminates in that tawaf. Our Hajj culminates in that tawaf, visiting Allah Azza wa Jalla. You see what we're doing now? Can you see the power of what we're going to be able to do? It's no longer going to be tawafs and random acts of ibadah, is it? It's going to